Much like I have to say to my son after every parent-teacher conference, we're going to have to talk about mathematics again. Nuggets lose to the Cavaliers. Why? What's the problem? And what can Nuggets do to change it? We'll talk about that and more on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day, even on the weekend. Appreciate you guys being with us, whether you're listening on the podcast or you're joining us at youtube.com/LockedOnNuggets and joining the thousands of subscribers that we have over there. We do appreciate you guys supporting the show wherever you're listening or watching. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. My name is Matt Moore. I'm the senior NBA writer for the Action Network. I'm also the writer at thedenverdig.com, where I'll have some thoughts this weekend about the Nuggets situation as far as trades go. Nuggets take a loss tonight on Friday night to the Cleveland Cavaliers, 149-135 in a defensive slugfest. This game, there's a bunch of things that you can kind of point to here. The second quarter was what all the Nuggets kind of pointed to because they got hit with a 22-2-2 run, and that just killed them. It was the rest of this game. The Nuggets lost the first quarter by 2. They tied in the third quarter, and they won the fourth quarter by 1. So they lost the other 3 quarters by 1 point, but they lost the second quarter 40-27 because of that run. And it started in the final minute before Nikola Jokic came back in, as it so often does, but it really avalanched after Jokic came back in. And all these things kind of fell apart. And then when you're in the Nugget situation, one little run like that against a team this good, and that's it. Denver was very clear after the game. The team has some pretty good perspective. I'll say this. This was a game where, by and large, like the Nuggets are just like, they're an awesome team. They played really great and shot really great. Like they gave credit to the Cavaliers. One of the problems is that the Nuggets in a lot of these games, right? And they've got a pretty good record versus the great teams in the league. They've knocked off the Thunder. They've knocked off the Mavericks. They've knocked off the Warriors. They've beaten good teams. But I will say this, that when they get beat by by great teams, the tone is very much like, yeah, because they're better than us. And like that didn't used to be the case because it was kind of different. And I think this season, combination of where the roster is and the feeling and the chemistry, all of that combined, Denver's very much in we're not the best team in the league. We don't have the record. We don't have the net rating. We don't have any of that, which is, I'll talk about Jamal Murray's comments after a while, which were interesting to me. Jamal didn't say anything super controversial and was actually pretty insightful tonight. But like some of the perspective I just think is kind of interesting. But like Malone, Jokic, Murray, they all were just like, yeah, it's a really great team. Like the team's playing absolutely awesome. And they just they play great tonight. And they did. Like the Cavaliers played a very fun brand of basketball. The Cavaliers are a really fun team to watch. The Cavaliers played awesome. They executed. They did all the things that you need to do. The core of this for me, though, is that you can point to that second quarter. And you can say that that's why they lost. But what's interesting, if you take it from that perspective, is so the Cavs scored 40 points in that quarter. They scored 40 in the first, and the Nuggets only lost by 2. They scored 36 in the third quarter, and they tied. And they scored 33. So like in every quarter, they scored more than 30 points. And so the problem here is not that the Cavaliers won the second quarter 40-27. It's that Denver was never able to put together a substantive run. And the reason they were unable to put together a substantive run to get back into the game, put pressure on the Cavs, and maybe steal this thing is because of the math. And I get it. You don't want to hear about it. And look, Ryan Blackburn has a tweet about how good the Cavaliers were at the rim. And they were awesome. Denver outscored them by 18 points in the paint. The Nuggets still won that battle because the Nuggets are a very efficient offense, as Michael Malone noted after the game. The Cavaliers in this game shot 57% from the field and 48% from 3. They shot great at the rim. I'm not denying that. The problem with all of this is that Denver still scored great. If you just look at this from a field goal perspective, like let's knock everything out and let's just talk about this. How many shots did you make versus how many shots did I make? The Cavaliers made 54 shots. The Nuggets made 53. The Cavaliers shot more free throws. So maybe you can point to that because they made 4 more free throws. Okay. They made 4 more points. The Nuggets lost this game by 14 points. So where did the others come from? And the answer is the Cleveland Cavaliers hit 23 of 48 from 3. The Nuggets 15 of 31. The Cavaliers shot 17 more threes and they made 8 more. That's your ball game. Period. End dot. Don't Tell Santa Cruz says it's defense, not math. If you actually watch the games, nobody can contain anyone. So here's the thing. SC. Here's the thing. Malone talked about this after the game. You're not wrong. It's a defense, right? Because I've been saying this, is that it's not that you have to take threes. The answer here is not that Denver has to take more threes. It would help, but that's not the solution here. It's that what you can't have is the inequity. That's the math problem, is that Denver still has a top 5 offense, and Denver tonight still scored extremely efficiently, and Denver still shot 56% from the field and 48% from 3, and they lost by 14 because of where the shots come from. And you're asking the offense to carry an unbelievable load of efficiency if you can't keep up with the threes. It's not about how many you take, and it's not about how many they take or make. It is about the differential. And Malone talked about this after the game, that last year they weren't they were still a bottom 3-point shooting team, but they were limiting the opponent. And this year they are unable to do so. So you have an offense that is largely unchanged. This is still an elite offense. They're a top 10 offense again. They're going to wind up as a top 5 offense. Like, that's who they're going to be again, because they have Jokic. That's who they're going to be. And they got good contributions offensively now. They had a lot of guys step up tonight offensively. But if you allow this many threes, you are simply not going to be able to keep up if you are trading tough contested 2s for 3s. You cannot do it. He says the Celtics have an elite defense on top of an elite offense. That was true last year. Go look this year. They're good. They're 8th, but they're not elite this year. It's one of the reasons I think the Celtics are actually beatable. Like, Boston's not as good because Boston's leaning more into the math to a point where I actually think this is largely unsustainable. Boston's also a bottom 5 team in points in the paint per 100 possessions. Boston's rim defense is bad. Denver has 2 problems. Their rim defense is bad and their 3-pointers are bad. The 2 things that you want to do, you want to contain the most it used to be the rim. I actually no longer believe that's true. I actually think that legitimately now, especially if you're the Denver Nuggets, if you were to just say you can take high percentage 2s and try and keep up with us, you would win the game. Like, if 3-pointers were not a thing, the Nuggets would win almost every game because they're so efficient offensively from 2-point range. Like, that's part of that. Don't Tell Santa Cruz says Drew Holiday's been hurt for a few games and KP hurt too. So I don't buy into that. Guess what? Their rim defense has gotten worse when KP got back. Their perimeter defense has gotten worse when Drew Holiday has played. Don't come in here with it trying to battle me on this. I know more than you. So when we're talking about the Nuggets, you do have to kind of come to the grips with the fact that they have to be able to contain these 3-pointers. And they have a couple of issues, but one of them is their inability to navigate over screens. And this is really where the loss of KCP hurts. Like, this is it, is that the Christian Brown is a good defender. He's having a rough stretch of games. Everyone's kind of commented on it. Swipe has tweeted about it, I think 700,000 times. But Christian's still a really good defender, especially in one-on-one coverage. The problem is that Christian is still learning and is still trying to get to a place where he can navigate screens effectively. They have nobody right now that can navigate screens effectively. The Nuggets are playing more drop. They played some at the level tonight, but they're playing more drop in part because it's easier to stay home if you play drop because you're not having to make multiple rotations. You simplify everything. But what's happening then is that teams are just shooting off the dribble, coming over the screen because Jokic is in drop and Jamal can't get over the screen and MPJ can't get over the screen. And even the good defenders like Christian Brown and Russell Westbrook can't get over the screen to be able to contest those 3-pointers. And that's why you get and once you see a few go in, now you're rolling. Nuggets transition defense. They got caught unaware on those. These little things are causing this kind of collapse. But the big thing here, it does continue to be the Nuggets might have been able to steal this with offense if they could take and make more threes. Michael Malone after the game said, quote, "We are not a volume 3-point shooting team. That's not what we have on our roster." And like, that's not him throwing shots to the front office. If anything, he's like Malone's attitude has been, this is what I've been given. This is what we're working with. We're trying to make the best out of this. Like, that's our job. That's my job, is to make the best team possible out of this. Now, I will say that Malone's inability, and this goes to not just Malone, but the coaching staff as a whole, their inability to be able to coach these guys to limit the number of 3-pointers is a real problem. It's just not one that's necessarily like, it's not a Nuggets issue. It's not like everybody's good at defending threes except Denver. This is a league-wide issue. And like, I've written a lot about this, about how you don't have to help on the inside. Like, don't shade. Don't come over and help all the way into the middle of the lane to try and show a crowd. Don't do that, because teams are too good right now at being able to reverse the ball, find the open man, and get a 3-pointer up. Like, it's just way too easy. And so that kind of navigation of things, I think, is you have to be able to kind of start changing your scheme to, like, I mean this very sincerely. If Denver just did everything possible to contain the number of threes that were allowed, these games would be fundamentally different. It is such a problem. Like, this is a glaring issue right now. It is the biggest on-court X's that we've talked about on the show. We've talked about chemistry. We've talked about roster. We've talked about lineups. We've talked about vibes. We've talked about this thing from a holistic standpoint. We try and cover it in as much detail from as many perspectives as possible. But if we just want to talk about X's and O's, if you just want to get into the straight nuts and bolts of how the Denver Nuggets win and lose games, their biggest problem is that they allow too many threes while taking too few. Because realistically, they genuinely could win more of these games with a high-powered offense if they took more. Like, maybe they can't stop the Cavaliers, because I don't think they have the personnel. They don't have the personnel to able to get over screens right now. Swipe a tweet during the game that they need 2 to 3 more defenders. He wants 2 to 3. He was like, if they would just trade for 2 to 3 more great defenders. How are you going to trade for 3 elite defenders? What are you trading for 3 elite defenders? My guy's crazy. But just like having one more would help a lot, because then what you could do is you could be like, all right, we're going to put that guy on Donovan Mitchell, and Christian Brown is going to cover Darius Garland. And even though Garland's probably going to get over the screen, we'll put Peyton Watson on Darius Garland, and then we'll move Christian Brown to these other guys and kind of navigate it that way. But that inability is a real problem. And if they're going to make a trade, that's going to have to be the move. On the other side, we'll keep talking about this game. We'll talk about some of the more of the post-game quotes about Jokic saying to point the finger at him and not at other people. And we'll talk about some of the other quotes from Jamal about some interesting comments from Jamal tonight, just in general. Simultaneously very confident and too kind of wistful. We'll talk about that in a second here on Locked On Nuggets. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Game Time is the best way for you to spend the holidays together doing something fun. You can go catch a Nuggets game. You can catch an Avalanche game. Avs got a big win tonight. Make sure you go check out Locked On Avalanche. You can get all these kind of great things, and you can get the picks that you want by turning on Game Time picks. It makes getting tickets to live events even easier. It filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals that you're going to want to go to. Game Time has a feature. You can get a panoramic view of your seats, so you know exactly what you're going to be seeing. And your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. We're also brought to you today by Rocket Money. Rocket Money has been phenomenal for me. A lot of changes in my work situation, and so I had to really start narrowing down on the old subscriptions. And Rocket Money was great about not only being able to find stuff and identify recurring expenses. When I opened up my dashboard that I wanted, I was like, I don't even know what this is. I'm canceling it. But also it helped me lower my bills. Like, they've got features. They'll help you negotiate to lower your bills. It's a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals that you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. And we're brought to you today by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. You're facing a terrible defense this weekend, Broncos. Surely you can get into the playoffs by beating the Cincinnati Bengals. They can't stop a nosebleed. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a W. You can bet on which players are going to score a touchdown. You can do which team's going to score first. There's all sorts of cool ones that you can get in on. Probably Bo Nix rushing touchdowns is a good call this weekend, given how bad the Bengals defense is. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Appreciate you guys being with us here on a Saturday. We will have a post-game show on Saturday night. So I did Swipe and Gripe on Friday. I did this show. I'll be with you tomorrow night, and I'll be with you on Sunday night for No Jinx. So Ryan, by the way, was going to join us tonight, but his car broke down in the Ball Arena parking lot. So that sucks. So tweet at Blackburn NBA and let him know that you're sorry about his car, because that sucks. That's really crappy to happen on a Friday night in the cold. Nanani says LaVine is here soon. Okay, so this is another this is where I'm at. This is another reason. Again, I think Zach LaVine is phenomenal, but Swipe is now on board Ryan's cockamamie plan to get LaVine, and I'm just how do you watch tonight and go, what fixes this is Zach LaVine? How do you get there? What makes you think that? Their problem is not offense. It's just not. Problem's not offense. They had a great offensive rating tonight. There's defense. They need more defenders. They need more utility guys. They need more lineup optionality. They need more options. They need to be able to build different types of teams depending on what they need. By the way, after we had this entire conversation about how Jamal Murray had a bad game and therefore he's back to being the trash can that everyone thought he was for 6 months, Jamal had 27 points tonight on 10 of 20 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3, 4 of 4 from the line, 11 assists. And he had 2 steals tonight in a season where, by the way, he let us know again, he's averaging a career high in steals and blocks in the postgame. Was Jamal cooked? Yeah, but everybody was cooked. And particularly the shots that Donovan Mitchell was making on him, I don't even know what, those are not bad shots. They're good shots for Donovan. I don't know how Murray's supposed to be able to really adequately defend that, because if he closes too hard on him, Donovan's either going to draw a foul or he's going to get by him. And now you have Nikola Jokic trying to protect against Donovan Mitchell getting downhill. That's not good. Right? And Murray took responsibility. Murray's I got to do a better job of being physical and taking away space from Donovan on the shots. He took responsibility, but Jamal was great tonight offensively. He was phenomenal. You don't need Zach LaVine. Nanani says, Matt, walk with me. Okay, I'll walk with you, Nanani. Defense is terrible. With LaVine, we're hoping we're not down big when Joker goes out. Simply outscore the opponents. Defense will be reliant on effort anyway. All right, let's go to that. How about this? DeAndre Jordan was a -1 tonight. A -1. Nikola Jokic was -15. I cover this team every night, and I pay attention to these plus minuses more than I should. I will admit I pay attention to the plus minus more than I should. There are more nights this season than I can remember having where Joker is a minus. And that's not on him. Again, he's been phenomenal. I've talked repeatedly, best NBA season, blah, 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 blah. Not saying that. Okay? Not saying it's on Joker. My point here is that the problem is not instantly fixed by fixing the non-Joker minutes. They have problems with Joker on the court this season. There are lineup combos that are getting to be a problem. It's an issue. So again, you can bring in LaVine, but that doesn't fix your problems. Siege says this year needs to change if not for the wins, for the vibes. Everyone in the org seems miserable and toxic right now, like it's crashing toward a blow up. Okay. I will tell you that there's been a little bit of that I've picked up from in terms of the people around the organization. What I will tell you is that I don't know how much of it's actually in the locker room. I think one of the things that's stressing a lot of people out is that the players are largely like, it's going to be fine. And everyone's like, it doesn't feel fine. Jamal, after the game, was talking about how the Cavaliers reminded him of how they were last year, where they were like really in sync and playing together and had so much confidence in each other. He said that. He was like, you remind me of last year because they had so much confidence of each other. So like, I followed up and was like, not to say that you can't get there, but do you have that kind of confidence in each other now? And Jamal immediately was like, oh yeah, for sure. 100%. And I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know if like Jamal, every time that I have tried to question there being problems with the team to him, and admittedly on record in front of camera setting, right? Jamal has like rebuked them with basically, are you a moron? And his entire thing, Murray's thing, has been like, we've earned the benefit of the doubt. He said that consistently. He got furious with me last year when I was basically like, do you need these final 20 games or final, 7 games or whatever to sharpen before the playoffs? And he was like, what do you think? Like, he was insulted at the notion when I was just trying to ask, like, why do you guys have to play these games? Because you guys are ready. But now it genuinely feels like they need to work on that kind of thing, but he still maintains a level of confidence. Joker, after the game, said people that one of the things is that point at me, not thee, right? Like, he's saying his point was point at him, not other people. That like, it shouldn't be what can they do for him. It's like, what can he do more for his team? Which I've written about this, about how you can't have it be everyone's failing Joker. It's a toxic kind of dynamic. Okay. And that's one of the reasons why, if you ever hear me pushing for more responsibility for Joker, it's legitimately that I think that's how he views the game. Like, he does take that, and I respect him for that. So I respect him enough to not be like, it's okay, Joker, you're doing great. You put up lots of points and rebounds and assists. And instead, I'm like, okay, the objective is to win. Joker's the best in the game at helping his team win. What does Joker need to do to help his team win? It's a high bar because he's already doing so much. I don't deny that. But like, that's why I take that approach. I'm not trying to be unnecessarily hard on Nikola Jokic. I know how good he is. I watch him every night. I'm in awe of this. I get to cover one of the best players of all time. But his approach is very much that it's about him and not about others. So I respect that, and that's how I talk about it. You don't have to. You can just be like, everybody else sucks, Joker's great. You can do that. I think it's dumb, but you can do that. So Mike getting iced out. Okay, so one of the things here is that Mike got into foul trouble tonight, and that was a big reason why he was ineffective. Like, he got off to a really great start. He was red hot off the bat. He finished with 18 points, 6 of 11 shooting. But he got in foul trouble. He had 5 fouls tonight. They were hunting him and Jamal pretty relentlessly. And this team is not a good combo for him. He just wasn't able to stay on the floor. So he kind of vanished. Gabriel says Malone is to blame for MPJ's disappearing act in every second half. Okay. So the Nuggets run a read and react offense. They don't really run set plays. They run a read and react offense for the most part. If that's the case, what is it you would like Malone to do? What magically is going to be the case here? I think it's totally fine to have questions about Malone. In particular, like I mentioned, at some point you have to solve the fact that you're giving up all these threes. You have to solve it. And the Nuggets have not. The Nuggets coaching staff, like, they are not slowing down this 3-point barrage, and it's a problem. You can't have this deficit every game. It's not sustainable. And they got to fix that. But Michael Porter Jr. got in foul trouble tonight. That's what happened. That's it. Don't Tell Santa Cruz says, Matt, do you think the supporting cast is better than Jokic's team, Serbia teammates? Be honest. 100 million times. 100 million times. Team Serbia would lose to the Cavaliers tonight by 100 points. 100 points is what they would lose to them by. You know why? Because it's the NBA. It's not European. It's not international ball. They're two different sports. That's why. Okay. So Murray's comments about the confidence thing, I think, are really interesting. And again, he seems like he has like absolute confidence, but I do think that there's like some stuff to kind of figure out. Brandon says, Matt, please tell these people that a trade right now does virtually nothing. More options to improve the team open up in the summer when you can deal Murray. So I agree with that for one part. One of the ideas that's being kicked around is if you trade right now, let's say you trade for LaVine. Okay. And I don't think that makes you closer to being a championship team. I think you're just like, you're more exciting, but I don't know that you're closer to being a championship team. But then in the summer, you could theoretically trade Jamal for the type of deal that I've been talking about, where you do get those multiple guys, right? Is that you break up the Joker Murray combo, LaVine steps into Murray's place, and you use Murray's contract and break that into pieces. I don't know that you're going to get better than you will for MPJ. Just don't, because like, you know, Murray's on an even bigger contract. You're paying so much money for Jamal, and you'd have to have somebody like really believe that Jamal can be like the guy. You'd have to have a team really believe in that. And there might be one, but that's what you need. The key here is that any trade that Denver does needs to be a 1 for 3. They need to get 3 different guys. They need a big, a wing, and a shooter, some combo. That's like what it is. Don't Tell Santa Cruz says that Team Serbia almost beat Team USA. Yeah, in international competition, that's not that. This is the NBA. These guys have played together for more than 5 minutes. So, the contract is pretty tough to move for Jamal. Also, again, Jamal now has 6 out of the last 7, I think, games with 20 plus points, or 5 out of 6, 6 out of 7. I think it's 6 out of 7 now, right? Like he had one bad game. He's turning his game around. Like he's doing the stuff. My question here is, you thought that defense would be fine with Christian Brown, and it's not. And that's not necessarily Christian's fault. It's just that he's a different type of defender. They have to solve that problem. If Denver's going to get where they want to go, they're going to have to solve that problem. They got to figure out wing defense. That's what's missing right now. And until they figure that out, it's going to be pretty hard. I said they were going to split with the Suns. I said they were going to split with the Cavs and Pistons. I thought they might have gotten this one, but now I'm very confident they're going to beat the Pistons tomorrow, and then they're going to beat the Jazz, and they're going to go 3-2 in the stretch. And that's just what it is. We will be back after the Pistons game to talk to you about it. We'll discuss all of these things and more. We'll see how they do on the back-to-back versus Detroit. A very plucky, entertaining, and tough Detroit team. That team is fun, and they're tough. So enjoy that game. And then we'll be back on Sunday night talking no jinx, and we'll off and running with next week. So hope you guys have a great weekend. If you're off work, enjoy it. We'll see you guys again next time here on Locked On Nuggets.